Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Memorial Day weekend. You're listening to the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show, sponsored by Benjamin Moore. And with it being Memorial Day weekend, I'm really grateful for those of you who are tuning in. You know, you guys are the true believers. You're the ones who are going to be mentioned in my will when I finally go, to the great beyond. RepcoLite Home Improvement Show swag is going to be handed out to all of you at my funeral, so you can take that to the bank. Your loyalty is admirable, and you should congratulate yourselves on being really great people. Anyway, coming up on the show today, it is Memorial Day weekend, so we're going to be talking about that. There's a lot going on when it comes to Memorial Day, and we're going to cover and discuss. I guess we can't have much of a discussion because you don't get to interact, really. But I get to talk about what I think it's about, how we celebrate it, and all of that. And I'm going to tie it to a story that's been really important, a news story that's been important to Michigan for the last couple weeks. We'll get to that at the end of the show. It's good stuff, so hang around for that. I'll also be on the phone with Jacob Beauchamp from Beauchamp Water, and we're going to be talking about hard water, what it can do in your home, and how to deal with it. And as a spoiler, or maybe a warning, we're going to talk about a strange issue that the kids and I discovered with one of our toilets. One of the toilets in the Hansen house. We discovered this a few weeks ago. It's not gross, so don't worry. You don't have to fling the bowl of Cheerios across the room in disgust. It's not gross at all, but it is intriguing. And apparently, what we experienced is common. So there's a really good chance some of you could experience the same thing. And believe me, you're going to want to have a heads up on it just in case you do run into it. I had no idea this was even possible on this earth. And it happened. And the situation was so stunning that, well, like I said, you're going to want to have a little heads up. Hang around for that. But right now, let's talk about what I think is an absolutely brilliant housewarming gift. I give out a lot of brilliant ideas on this show. At least I tell myself that. This is one of those. At least a few times a year, I think all of us generally run into some friend or family member who's moving into a new house. If that friend or family member is a first-time homeowner, this is truly a brilliant gift idea. You don't even have to tell them I gave you the idea. Take full credit. I don't care. But this is the gift to give that first-time home buyer. All right, here's the backstory. I have friends who just bought their first house. They moved in, and of course, the first thing they wanted to do was paint. The house felt like somebody else's, and they wanted to get their colors on the wall, their colors on the trim. They wanted the house to feel like their home. They'd been renting and couldn't do any painting, so when the opportunity arose, that was their first goal, paint this house and make it ours. Well, they roped me into helping, and when the day came around, I grabbed a brush or two from home and a roller frame, and I headed out. I got there, and I learned a lot of things very quickly. Now, first, before I get to that, let me sum up the project, what we were working on. The work we were doing was some exterior work. The foundation was painted and chipping a little bit and needed to be repainted. And then we were going to focus on the interior of the front porch. That was really it. Pretty small stuff, really. I brought the kids with me so we could crank out the work faster yet. Now, when we got there, we learned, I told you, I learned a bunch of things quickly. Here's what I learned. I learned that my friends had nothing in terms of tools. Well, practically nothing. They had a beat-up old roller tray and an old brush. That was it. They didn't have can openers for the paint. They didn't even have screwdrivers to crank the paint open with. They didn't have tape, drop cloths. They didn't have cut-in buckets or containers, nothing small to pour the paint into so that we could all walk around and work in different areas. We all had to keep coming back to the same bucket, or we had to run out and get stuff. They didn't even have Gladware or Tupperware that we could use. The whole experience was funny in a way, but it was also frustrating and incredibly time-consuming. Something that should have only taken a few hours took most of a day because we either limped along with the wrong supplies or too few supplies, or because we were running around trying to gather what we needed. So, brings me back full circle to my recommendation for the ideal housewarming gift for somebody who's just bought their first home, a paint starter kit. Now, I've got a full list of what I think should be in this paint starter kit, and it's all online at RepcoLite.com, so you can check it out there if you don't catch everything right now. But really, here are the basics, and we're going to kind of go fast because this isn't rocket science. Now, all right, the first thing on my list is a 2.5-inch Corona Excalibur brush. Now, the 2.5-inch size, that's a great all-purpose size, and the Excalibur brush itself features Chinex filaments or bristles. Now, what this means is that these bristles are engineered to apply water-based paint smoothly and easily. But more importantly, to me, as a side benefit, it turns out they clean up crazy easily. I've had plenty of times where I've run them under running water for, 45 seconds, something like that, and they're pretty much clean and ready for storage. Next, grab a good roller frame and some good roller covers. And let's start with the covers. A lot of times people try to save money on roller covers, but it's the wrong place to save. The cover or the applicator determines how good your paint looks on the wall. Cheap ones can make even the most expensive paint look bad. So grab 3 to 6 Worcester Microplush roller covers. The Microplush covers apply your paint smoothly. They almost give you a sprayed-like finish, and they price out, $5 or under. So they're going to be at the most $3 more expensive than a really cheap, really bad roller cover. So this isn't the place to save money. Get the good stuff, and it's going to pay off down the road. Now, when it comes to roller frames, my favorite is the Sherlock roller frame from Worcester. It's got a heavy-duty frame and a fiberglass reinforced cage with retaining clips, which I'm sure is almost impossible to visualize. The important thing to take away from this is that the retaining clips, which are unique to this roller frame, they hold your roller covers in place. If you've ever been rolling with a cheaper roller frame and you notice that the roller cover kind of walks off the edge, this prevents that. Best of all, the Sherlock roller frame quick connects to the Worcester Sherlock extension pole system. So that's the next thing on my list, a 2 to 4 foot Sherlock extension pole. Now, most roller frames thread onto extension poles. When you use the Worcester Sherlock frames and extension poles, you get a bayonet clipping system that makes them remove and reattach really, really easily. So you're going to feel really cool pulling them off and snapping them back on. And extension poles in general are kind of overlooked by a lot of DIYers. We tend to think we only need them if we're painting up to high ceilings or something like that. But actually, using an extension pole regularly helps you apply the paint more evenly, and it reduces fatigue. So set the Worcester pole at 2 foot when you don't need the reach, bump it up to 4 when you've got to reach higher. It's great. Next, I'd recommend another Worcester Sherlock product to kind of round out the set. It's a Worcester Jumbo Coater frame and the appropriate covers. Now, jumbo coaters are those small, 4 to 6 inch covers and rollers. And what makes the Worcester system great is that all the jumbo coater covers match their larger counterparts exactly. So you're going to get the same fiber and nap on the covers so that if you swap out back and forth between the larger one and the smaller one, you're not going to see any texture differences on the wall. And that Worcester Jumbo Coater frame that I mentioned snaps right onto that Worcester extension pole, just like the bigger frame. So grab those items. A few other things very quickly here. Get metal trays and tray liners. Grab a roll or two of good tape. I like frog tape. Get some good metal putty knives, a wire brush, and don't forget a canvas drop cloth runner. All of these things are online at RepcoLite.com. Check them out there. I know it's kind of a joke, feels like a joke, but a paint starter kit, pretty solid idea for somebody who just bought a house. They've already had that big investment, and one of the first things they want to do is paint. If you give them a bunch of tools that get them off to the right start and which will last throughout all the years of owning that home, I think you look pretty smart. Anyway, check it out online at RepcoLite.com. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll be on the phone with Beauchamp Water talking about fixes for hard water problems. That's all next. Stick around. And we're back. You're listening to the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show, sponsored by Benjamin Moore. And the other day, we had something happen at my house that honestly felt like a scene out of the X-Files. It unfolded in our bathroom. And to help me discuss this incredibly bizarre situation, I'm joined by Jacob Beauchamp of Beauchamp Water. Jacob, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dan. It's good to be on with you.
And I got the name right? Did I get that right?
Yup, you're good. You're good. You got it.
All right, perfect. Now, before we get to my story and the ridiculousness that happened, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about Beauchamp Water, where you're located, what you do, how long you've been doing it, all that good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So Beauchamp Water, we started up about 10 years ago, although family's been in water treatment since the 70s. My grandpa did it. My dad does it. I have uncles that are involved. So it's been in the family for quite some time. Between our family, got to have well over 100 years of experience just in the family. That being said, we're headquarters out of Brighton, Michigan. We got locations in Fenton, Waterford, Howell, but we service all of Michigan. We even get into northern Ohio, northern Michigan, all the way up to the thumb. Cover just about the whole state of Michigan. Some of the things we're known for, we cover hard water issues, water softeners, water filtration, reverse osmosis, city water solutions, and even more recently, we just launched a specialty plumbing service, getting into tankless water heaters, sump pumps, constant pressure systems for wells. Really just a niche area of plumbing we're getting into, and we're pretty excited to be involved with that.
All right, so that's really cool. So you say you cover pretty much all of Michigan? I've got listeners on the west side. You go that far?
Yep. We go that far. We've done installs 3-4 hours away, so that's not a problem at all.
All right. Okay. Well, let's get to my story, and then we're going to get to what I think is the problem. And here's the deal. The other day, I'm sitting around, and one of my kids comes and says, he was in the bathroom. And he comes out and he says, "Dad, you got to come and look at what's in the toilet." And that's a crazy conversation that's not a conversation starter. And I was not sure what exactly we were talking about at that point. And I knew it couldn't be too bad, but the way he came out, I didn't think it was very good either. I figured something bad had happened, that we had some kind of leak or something. So anyway, we go into the bathroom, very, very nervous about what I'm going to encounter. And in the bowl, it's completely clean water, but in the bowl is this huge piece that looks like a bone. It looks like this curved skull-like or shell-like thing that's just sitting in there, and it hadn't been there just seconds before. So he was very curious. We're all very curious at that point. So we fished it out, washed it off, and all I can think is that it was a mineral deposit that had broken loose from somewhere. What do you think? Have you run into something like that before?
Yeah, we see that all the time, pretty much on a daily basis. Very
Seriously?
common to Yep, no doubt. Very common. We see mineral buildup inside someone's plumbing. It can break loose, appear anywhere in your aerators and the faucets, all the way to the toilet bowls, to your showers, bathtubs. Very, very common.
All right. Well, it was really freaky to look at. Not something we anticipated finding in the toilet.
No, not at all. Nothing you ever want to find, that's for sure.
So clearly, I've got hard water issues at home, and that's what I want to get to right now. I want to talk about what we mean by hard water, how we can tell if we've got it, for the people who don't have the thing that looks like a skull of an animal floating in the toilet or sitting in the toilet. How do we tell if we've got hard water problems? What kind of problems can hard water cause? And finally, what can we do about it? Let's just start with hard water. What do we mean when we use that term?
So, hard water is a description of basically mineral content in your water, typically defined as lime calcium scale. A couple of different units of measurements you can get into classifying it, but most people are going to go by grains per gallon of hardness in your water. Things that can cause are anything like those freaky mineral deposits you guys got in your water, to stains on your glasses, stains in your toilet bowls, cloudy shower windows, all of that good stuff. Very, very common in Michigan. All water's got hardness around here.
Okay, so what kind of problems does that cause? Is it just aesthetic? I'm dealing with stains in the toilet bowl or cloudiness on the shower door. Is it more than that? Does it damage stuff?
Yeah, so the first thing you're going to notice is going to be the aesthetic issues, stuff I just talked about. Then you're actually going to run into some appliance issues. It can actually cause some issues in your toilets, your valves in there. It can cause some issues in your dishwasher, your refrigerator, all over. That same piece of sediment you had break loose, what'll happen is it'll build up the same way in your washer, dryer, sorry, not dryer, but refrigerator, all of that stuff.
Okay, so like in my dishwasher, what is going to happen? So it builds up. It's just plugging up these lines. What am I going to see? What are my
Yep.
clues that this is happening?
Some of the clues you're going to see on the jets, maybe some white deposits on those. You're really not going to notice anything off the bat if the dish is being clean or not, but you're going to start to lose efficiency in your dishwasher. It's not going to clean the dishes as well over time, and you're going to start to get spotting on your dishes. Some real telltale signs.
All right, what about the hot water heater?
Hot water heater as well. You can get quite a bit of mineral buildup in there. We see a lot of customers that hear popping in their water heater. Typically, that's caused by sediment buildup, mineral buildup inside your water heater. Uh, and it's, yeah, greatly going to decrease the life of that water heater.
So I've got a brand new water heater. It's probably 2 years old. And I've been noticing for about 3 or 4 months now, like in the middle of the night, it'll gurgle really loud.
Okay.
Am I dealing with, am I already, is that the popping that you're talking about? Or is that just the right answer, Jacob, just so you know, so you can put my mind at ease, is that it's just the normal function of a healthy hot water heater. But if
Yep.
it's something different, you better let me know.
Yep. I'd love to tell you it's normal, and
Oh, crap.
very few cases it can be something that's normal. But uh, a lot of the times there's some kind of mineral buildup, sediment buildup in that water heater that's causing that gurgling, popping. And it's not going to cause any immediate issues by any means with your water heater, but over time, it's definitely going to decrease the efficiency and life expectancy of that unit.
All right. Now we're way off of where I wanted to go with this, but since we're on this topic for the moment, flushing that hot water heater, is that going to help me? I mean, I can't hurt me necessarily, but I can't imagine that's going to do a whole lot for some of these big deposits.
Yeah, short term, it's definitely going to help you, but at the end of the day, you still have that mineral building up in your water heater. You're continuing to put in that, if your water is unfiltered hard water running through that water heater. So you're going to continue just to have to keep flushing and flushing, and over time, it's just not good for the overall health of the unit to have unfiltered water running
Right.
through there.
All right. So before we get to solutions, I'm on the phone with Jacob Beauchamp from Beauchamp Water. And I guess I'm curious, Jacob, is there anything else we need to know about hard water, about the problems it could cause? Anything else you want to say before we get to the solutions?
Uh, Nothing too much. Obviously, big thing, you run into hard water. There's big difference between hard water on city water, well water. Just a lot of factors that play into it. So get to know your water, get with a specialist, and figure out what you can do to make things right.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What do your solutions look like? I mean, I know there are soft water or water softeners. Walk us through what you would do in a home. If I called you and told you about what I'm dealing with, what are we going to do? What's our first step and where do we go?
Yeah. So first step would be as get in touch with a water specialist, whether it be us, another company. Most companies, including ourselves, offer free in-home water analysis. So we'll come in, test your water, evaluate the situation. Hard water is not the only contaminant you're going to deal with in water. Aesthetically, it's the most common without a doubt, but there's other issues you could run into on city water. You could have excess chlorine that isn't good for your skin, your hair. Some taste issues could happen with that. You could want some peace of mind with reverse osmosis units, getting purified water at the tap. Uh, mm, with city water, they do a great job of treating it, but the lines running up to it, the building, the infrastructure behind it, just can have some issues. So you want to be sure to treat that. A lot of municipalities we work with want to recommend you to treat that as well. Get into well water, you run into a whole nother bout of issues. You can run into arsenic, iron, manganese, sulfur, hardness, like we've been talking about, and there's just a lot of unknowns. So very important to get your water tested.
Are those things I would notice, or are those things that I might not notice all of them unless I get somebody out there?
You might not notice all of them, but a good majority of those you are going to notice.
All right. So your solutions, I mean, is it a water softener? If like for hard water, is that largely where you go? And is it a salt? Do you use salt with that? Or are there other versions? Are there things that you could do?
So water softening is the most common way and most efficient way to remove hardness from the water. There are some salt-free systems out there, but we really advise our customers to stay away from them. We find it just doesn't give you the outcome of what you're looking for. More than happy to do it for customers that want it. We've just found it doesn't bring the water up to most people's standards.
Okay.
Salt-based system, way they work is it exchanges all that hardness in the water for a small amount of sodium or potassium in the water, that thus giving you soft water, eliminating that lime scale calcium mineral content in the water.
All right. Well, Jacob, I'm wondering if you can hold with me over a break. I've got to take a break, and I do have some questions just about what the system looks like, the footprint in the basement, installation, what all those things might look like. Can you wait with me over a break?
Yeah, no problem.
All right, we'll be back in just a minute with Jacob Beauchamp from Beauchamp Water, talking about hard water and mainly looking for a solution. We'll be back in just a minute. Stick around. And we're back. You're listening to the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show, sponsored by Benjamin Moore. I am on the phone with Jacob Beauchamp from Beauchamp Water. You guys are located on the east side of the state, but you cover the whole state, right, Jacob?
Yep, without a doubt, cover the whole state.
All right, and we're talking about hard water issues, amongst other things, but that's predominantly what we're focused on here and trying to look for solutions. We were talking about water softening. That's, the main solution to getting this problem fixed and dealing with it. You talked about a number of different ways that you could do that. Saltless, what were the other ones?
So most of your system is going to be a salt-based system, but there are saltless systems out there. As we had talked about, we advise our customers to stay away from those systems just because it simply doesn't bring your water up to your standards, what you're looking for as far as the mineral lime scale calcium reduction in the water. Uh, But like I was saying, the main system tends to be a salt-based system.
All right. So what does the installation look like? Do you come out, is it just a single unit that gets installed? I remember talking to other water experts, and I think it depends on the problems that are happening, but they were describing multiple systems that get installed that each do different things and kind of work in a chain. Help me understand, what am I looking at when I get you out there?
Exactly. As we had talked about, first step's going to be have us come out, test your water, see what kind of contaminants you're dealing with, what kind of issues you want to solve. But typically, what it looks like is we get right in at the point of entry of your water usage, whether it be on well water, city water. Well water will be by the pressure tank, city water will be by the meter. If we're talking just a simple softener installation, that's going to go in, cover just the inside of the house. We'll bypass the outdoor hose spigots, so that's not unfiltered water. And it'll cover the whole house, hot and cold water. Certain applications, well water, sometimes we run into arsenic in the water, sometimes we run into iron in the water. Then we would pre-treat the water before the softener for both of those things. Uh, Help make those the workhorse units, if you will, eliminate the iron hardness so that the softener's not dealing with those. And then you could even add a whole array of equipment after that. You can get into reverse osmosis systems, giving you purified, bottled like water right from the tap. You can add UV lights in certain situations that'll eliminate bacteria in your water. uh, and a lot of these equipments are even versatile. You can put them over onto municipal water, city water as well. So really a whole
Okay.
array of equipment.
So let's say I do something like that reverse osmosis thing, because I sure do like bottled water and I'd like it out of my tap, but all the pipes leading from the equipment that you installed to my tap are still potentially old. Do I have to have all of that replaced? Can it pick up all the junk on the way to my tap so it's no longer this spring fed water that I'm expecting?
Exactly. So typically what we would do is in a reverse osmosis situation, we would run separate lines up. So you'd have a separate tap next to your kitchen faucet that's strictly for drinking water. And we'd also run a dedicated line to the refrigerator as well, giving you bottled water from there. Most
Okay.
scenarios, we're not doing whole house reverse osmosis, but it is an option for sure.
What if I want to bathe in spring water, Jacob? If I want to bathe in spring water, I'm sure you will help me do that, even though it may be ridiculous, right? I
Oh,
mean,
without a
you'll do
doubt.
whatever if I'll pay.
Exactly, we can make that happen. We, probably do 4 or 5 of those a year, give or take, so,
All
it's
right.
believe it or not, people wanna do that.
We're sick of buying all those bottles. I mean, it's hard to deal with. There's a lot of
Exactly.
garbage and recycling involved. Okay. So that part makes sense. I understand that. I have a few questions just about the process once it's done. I got it installed. How long before I start to see results or changes in my water? Once you put a soft water, let's just talk about water softeners at this point. Once that's in, is it an instantaneous change? Is it something that happens over time?
Yeah, so if we're talking, water softeners, water hardness eliminators specifically, you're gonna notice that change immediately on your cold water at least. Your water's gonna immediately feel smoother, silkier, if you will, and the reason for that is because soft water actually, helps your skin to maintain its natural oils, whereas hard water eliminates your skin's natural oils. Hot water, typical situation, most of our customers have tanked water heaters, so it's a storage tank of water. It's gonna take some time to flush that out, introduce the soft water. But within 1 to 2 weeks, you're going to notice the full benefits of having soft water. Your hair is going to start to feel better. Your skin's going to start to feel better. And in the long term, you're not going to get any buildup on any of your appliances, faucets, fixtures, anything like that.
All right. So if I'm seeing that build up, I definitely should dig into it, because a lot of stuff could be damaged by letting it go. The results are going to be right away. What about health concerns regarding the additional sodium in the water? Does that play out? Does this water, am I drinking that salt now?
So you are drinking that salt now, but the amount of sodium that it does introduce to the water is very, very minimum. In most scenarios, we're below the EPA's recommended sodium levels in the water, so it's nothing to be concerned about by any means.
All right.
With that being said, there is also salt substitutes. You could get into potassium as opposed to sodium, and for a lot of people, that's a great route that are sodium sensitive.
What about pipes corroding? That is not something I thought about, but in digging into this, I heard a number of people saying, oh, that's a concern with a water softener. You're going to see corrosion in your pipes quicker.
It's not something we typically see. Is your pipes corroding quickly? Really, when you get into pipes corroding due to sodium, you are 4 or 5 times the EPA's recommended levels, that's going to cause that. At the minimal amounts of sodium we're introducing, you're not going to run into any pipe corrosion going on.
No, that's good info. That's what I suspected. So that's good to hear. And the last thing I had, question-wise, is what do I need? Do I need to test my water on a regular basis once I've got a water softener to make sure that I've got the right levels of whatever I've got to have in there, with the salt and all of that? Or is it just, it's in there, I just make sure that it's got the salt that it needs and I'm good to go?
Yep, most systems, it is going to be very low maintenance. Keep it full of salt. You'll be in good shape, good to go. But I do recommend at a bare minimum, get your water tested yearly. Uh, like I was saying, you're probably going to get used to having soft water once you have it. And when it's not soft, you'll begin to feel it in your hair and skin pretty quickly.
All right. So, hey, I do have one other question. You mentioned all throughout this conversation, city water, well water. I have city water.
Okay.
Should I be stunned? Should I be writing a letter to congressmen or something like that to let them know that my water's not being softened as it should be?
Not at all. Not at all.
Or is that just normal?
It is very typical with municipal water, city water. Like I had mentioned, municipalities, they do a great job of treating water, keeping it up to the standards. And typically hardness isn't something that's covered under those standards. Not that it's harmful to you by any means. Hardness really is just more aesthetically unpleasing than anything else. So municipalities, like I said, they do a great job at treating the water, but there are certain factors that are out of their control, such as the infrastructure leading up to your house. You've seen in, not to jump down a rabbit hole, but over in Flint, the lead crisis they have, not due to the way they're treating the water or anything like that, just due to the infrastructure leading up to people's homes. So it's real important. A lot of municipalities, like I said, are recommended treating your water. They're pushing for it, and really rather be preventative than reactive. That's for sure.
Yeah. So if you do have city water, that doesn't mean none of this applied to you. All of this might still apply to you. Well water, city water. If you've got water, this might apply to you, right? That's basically where we're at.
Yep, without a doubt.
All right.
Without a doubt.
So get it tested. And Jacob, you said Beauchamp Water covers all of Michigan, right? You said that.
Yep,
so
all of Michigan.
A lot of driving.
Yep, we're happy to do it.
If our listeners have questions, they want to get in touch with you, how's the best way for them to do that?
You can get in touch with us at our website, beauchampwater.com. We're easy to reach at phone. We got a full team that's more than happy to help you out at 810-632-2000. We're on all socials as well. More than happy to help you guys out on any of those platforms.
All right. I'll put links to all of that in the show notes. Jacob Beauchamp from Beauchamp Water. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
Thanks for having us.
All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to get my deep thoughts on Memorial Day. That's all just ahead. Don't go anywhere. We're back. You're listening to the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show, sponsored by Benjamin Moore. It's our Memorial Day weekend extravaganza, kickoff, special. It's pretty much the same old show with the last segment being focused on Memorial Day. So before we send you off to go hang out and do all the fun things you're going to do this weekend, let's talk about Memorial Day a little bit. And for me, Memorial Day has always meant a lot of different things. You know, my dad fought in Vietnam, and while he never really talked much about that, really still hasn't, we always did still have a deep respect in the house for our military and for the sacrifices made by the men and women who served. So when Memorial Day came around every year, I usually applied that ingrained patriotism and respect and appreciation to all soldiers, you know, current soldiers, veterans, those who survived and those who didn't. However, as a kid, I've got to say, that was only, you know, a small part of Memorial Day. After all, we had that Monday off from school, and right there, in having a Monday off, there's a lot of magic. You know, Fridays off are cool, but everybody loves Friday as it is. It's a good day. As far as weekdays go, it's pretty much the best weekday. It's the day right before the weekend. It's really hard to hate a Friday, even if you've got to go into work. But Monday, on the other hand, that's a kind of punch you in the face and take your milk money kind of day. You know, if the kid in class who reminded the teacher to give out homework at the end of the day, if that kid were a weekday, he'd be a Monday. Nobody likes that kid. Nobody likes Mondays. And so when you're given Monday off with great late spring weather to boot, well, it really doesn't get much better. Except Memorial Day does get better because you have the day off, but there are also parades. And then after the parades, there are big family get-togethers. I remember we'd all meet up at the park or somebody's house or something like that, and then we'd grill hamburgers and hot dogs, and my mom and aunts would make all kinds of desserts, and who knows what else. I remember sticky buns were a big part of it because everybody'd make fun of the actual name Sticky Buns. Anyway, my cousins and uncles and I would play baseball. We'd throw a football around, and the day was almost perfect. On top of that, Memorial Day has one last magical thing up its sleeve. It's the opposite of Labor Day. Now, here's what I mean. And I know all kids and maybe teachers are going to relate to this. Labor Day is the last gasp of summer. Yeah, it's a fun day, but school starts the next day, literally the next day. How much fun can you have when school, a brand new year of school, a whole new array of people to make fun of me, new teachers, new classes I probably won't be able to find, I'll get lost looking for. When all of that is coming, how can I really have fun when I've got that stuff just hours away? But Memorial Day, it's this amazing oasis at the end of the school year. School's winding down, it's almost done, and then all of a sudden, on the last Monday in May, we get this day off. It's kind of a teaser of what's coming, a quick preview of summer vacation. So that's what Memorial Day is, for a lot of us, for me, for sure. Maybe most of us, in fact. And really, I don't think that's all bad. It's not accurate. It's not what the day was meant to be, but in a very real way, it's fitting. The day, as we most likely are all aware, Memorial Day is the day to remember and honor the sacrifice of soldiers who fell in the service of their country. It's not about veterans. There's Veterans Day for that. It's not about launching summer. It's not about picnics or hot dogs or hamburgers or even just a day off from work or school. It's about honoring the sacrifices of those who gave everything. That's what Memorial Day is all about. And yet, really, I can't think of a better way to honor that sacrifice than to at least spend a fair amount of time enjoying and embracing the things that all these soldiers gave their lives to protect. When we spend a day enjoying life and doing things that seem quintessentially American, family get-togethers, hot dogs, hamburgers, corn on the cob, baseball, football, when we spend a day doing those things, I really think we're honoring the sacrifices of those soldiers who gave everything. At the very least, we're doing all the things that they fought to guarantee. But here's something that hit me this week, and a recent news story really brought it all home. It's the story of unknown X5077. It's big news this month, at least in Michigan, and it kind of got me thinking. Now, unknown X5077 is an unidentified soldier who fell in the Korean War in 1950. And then on May 14, 2024, so just a couple weeks ago, the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency, the DPAA, put out a press release announcing that they'd finally been able to identify the soldier as U.S. Army Private First Class Thomas A. Smith from Michigan. Now, maybe you've already heard this story, but if not, here's the gist of it. In the summer of 1950, Smith was a member of the 2nd Squad, 3rd Platoon, Company A, 3rd Engineer Combat Battalion, 24th Infantry Division. And Thomas Smith was 17 years old at the time. Now, in August of 1950, Smith was engaged in a defensive action near Sinju at the southern end of the Korean Peninsula. Now, the fighting was fierce in that particular event, and in the course of it, on August 2, he was reported as missing in action. Now, following the battle, his remains couldn't be recovered. It was just too fierce, and so his family was left wondering, what happened? He was never listed as a prisoner of war, and finally, on December 31 of 1953, the Army declared Smith as killed in action. Now, back in 1950, the battle took place on August 2. Back in 1950, at the end of the year, the U.S. Army Quartermaster Corps, the group responsible for recovering, identifying, and then repatriating soldiers lost during the Korean War, they recovered Smith's remains but didn't know it. They designated them as unknown X5077. Now, when an extensive analysis by the Central Identification Unit, Kokura, in Japan, was unable to identify the remains, X5077 was declared unidentifiable, and then later in February of 1956, this unnamed, unknown soldier was buried at the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific, a cemetery in an extinct volcano in Honolulu known as the Punch Bowl. Now, he was buried there with other Korean War unknowns. So flash ahead 62 years, and in July 2018, the DPAA proposed a plan to disinter 652 Korean War unknowns from the Punch Bowl. Later in March of the following year, X5077 was disinterred and the remains were further analyzed. Using dental and anthropological analysis as well as mitochondrial DNA analysis, X5077 was finally identified conclusively on September 22, 2023 as Private First Class Thomas A. Smith, a 17-year-old soldier from Grant, Michigan. He's going to be buried in Bridgeton Township Cemetery in Grant sometime later this summer. Now, that story was all over the place for the last couple weeks, and well, it should be. So go and search it out. Look it up. Check out the photos of Thomas A. Smith. It's really heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking. There's nothing else to say about it. You can see this young kid in the prime of his life. Reminds me of my kids. It really hits home. And you realize how much people have had to give and have chosen to give for the sake of their country, for the sake of all of us. Now, to me, this is the absolute heart of Memorial Day. Some of us know soldiers who've died by name. We know them. And for some of us, those connections are incredibly close. A son, a daughter, a father, a mother, maybe an aunt, maybe an uncle. For those who have those connections, they're going to strive to keep those memories alive indefinitely. It's just a core part of who they are from this point going forward. Now, some of us don't have those personal connections. We only know of the sacrifices that soldiers made because maybe they caused a major stir. Maybe they were a person who was famous before they were a soldier. I'm thinking Pat Tillman from the Arizona Cardinals. Or maybe their sacrifice happened in a monumental manner, resulting in the saving of many lives. Or the sacrifice galvanizes an army or a unit and propels them to fight in ways they never fought before. When we hear those tales, we hear those stories and we remember those names. I'm thinking Joseph Warren in the Revolutionary War. He was one such death. After his death at the Battle of Bunker Hill, British General Thomas Gage is rumored to have said that Warren's death was equal to the death of 500 ordinary colonials. His death was viewed as an act of martyrdom, and it encouraged the American cause. So sometimes we hear about those stories, and that's why those names resonate with us, and we learn those names, and they become part of our collective psyche, something that we carry with us all the time. However, so many, the vast majority of these soldiers die with little fanfare, with little renown, with little awareness. Think of all the men and women who've given their lives in war. World War I and II, Korea, Vietnam, the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the Gulf War, the war in Afghanistan, and on and on and on. Think of all the men and women who've given their lives in those conflicts. We can't. We really have no clue, no idea. So many soldiers gave so much, and most of us have never even heard their names mentioned. Soldiers like Thomas A. Smith, previously known only as unknown X5077. He was 17 years old and found himself in a battle in a faraway place, and by the end of that day, he had given everything he had to give. 17 years old. A life of opportunity and ideas, hopes, dreams, all of that in front of him. Family who loved him, friends who missed him. There are hundreds of thousands of other stories like that. Men and women who gave all but aren't identified. Men and women who died whose stories fade because they aren't epic tales, and yet every single soldier who gave their life for their country gave everything. They paid the same price. Whether the story was all over the news or whether it was a tiny footnote, it cost them all the same thing. And that price was everything. So this Memorial Day, do all of the things that make Memorial Day great. Enjoy the dreams and hopes of summer that's just coming, the excitement of a school year that's almost done, the hot dogs, the hamburgers, the corn on the cob, whatever desserts your grandma makes. Enjoy all of that, the baseball, the football, the sticky buns. But while you're doing that, tell some of the stories of the soldiers while you're at it. While you're grilling, talk about some of the soldiers that you personally know who've given everything. Remember their families in your thoughts and prayers. Remember them in your words. If you don't know many soldiers by name, go do a little digging. There's time before Memorial Day is here. Find some of the lesser known stories out there. Find the stories of men and women who sacrificed everything for the sake of our country and our ideals, and then share those stories. Now you know just a snippet of the story of Thomas A. Smith from Grant, Michigan. Tell his story and others like it, and then keep the memory of their sacrifice front and center as you enjoy your Memorial Day. All right, that's all the time we've got. We're going to have to wrap it up. If you want to catch this one again, you can find it online at RepcoLite.com. And while you're there, subscribe to the podcast, and you can get all of our past episodes and just tool through them and learn all kinds of stuff and have a lot of fun along the way. All right, have a great Memorial Day. We wish you the best. We're going to be closed on Monday so we can be with our families, and then we'll be back at it on Tuesday. We'll see you then. I'm Dan Hansen. Thanks for listening.